Hi everyone, today in part 2 we are going to take at different options and ways to utilize the asset library we did in part 1. I'm going to link this video in the description, so if you haven't seen it, maybe you want to check this out. It's all about converting free kit bash 3D asset or kit into a Blender asset library. So let's start with creating a landscape. I'm just partial to using Heightmaps, so let's create a landscape. Let's move to my Heightmaps, and I'm going to use Cliff 6 because that's the one you can grab for free on Gumroad, which I will also link in the description if you want to do exactly the same thing as I'm doing here. So that's what we've got here. Alternatively, if you have my Heightmap asset library, you could pick any of these and just drop and drag them in. But for now, let's go with this one. Let's scale this up by 200 and apply the scale. Go to our modifier and go to 200, so we have the scale applied. So that's the cliff you might remember from a previous follow along video, but you know what, this is a little bit too steep for what I'm looking for, so let's bring this down to like 150, something like this. Yeah, that gives us a good terrain to work with. And why this height map is good to work with is because we have sort of flat areas everywhere, which will come in handy when we put our assets in. So the first process is to actually use individual assets and place them individually into your scene. So what we're going to do is find a nice camera position. So I have an idea what we can do. So let's go with this view. Let's take a look at in rendered view. Okay, we can play with the light, but that's not what we're going to do right now. So what we are going to do is we are going to open up our asset library, which you know can be found in the asset browser here, and in the previous step we have created our NeoCities asset library. And as I told you in the first video, when you have created your asset library, close down, open it up again, create catalogs within your asset library, and then just drag and drop them in here. So there should nothing be unassigned. We've got the buildings here and we've got the materials of this kit in here as well. But right now we just need the buildings, and what we're going to do is it's super easy and very convenient. We're just taking one of these buildings and place them where we want it to be. So for example this one. And I have an idea, so I'm going to take this one and just scale it up, and you know, something like this, maybe like so. And when you put this down, it will always be rotated on the normal of the terrain you have set this in. So what I like to do is, when placing that, is hit Alt and R, so the rotation is being cleared, and so we have this proper rotation of this asset. So we have this in the foreground. Let's bring it down a bit, and now so we have this. Let's take a look at in the rendered view. Might take some time because, as I told you, these assets have great textures in there. So we've got this very traditional Chinese medicine kiosk in here. So we put this something like here. And what I want to do is create a cityscape in the background. So you've got the traditional piece in the front and then just some of these buildings at the back. And oops, so what we're going to do is now just placing our assets wherever we want them to be. So like here and there, you know, it's very, as I told you, it's on the normal, and we're going to fix this in a minute, like so. And I think we've taken every, okay, and then Alt R, and now bring this down so they actually are part of our landscape, like so. So, and then we would have this. I'm not putting materials on our terrain yet because it will just slow down our system, because right now we already have almost 1 million faces in here. So as we can see, it's not integrated like so. We can, you know, just play around with the placement. Scale, you are the master of the scale. You can do whatever you want, and you can rotate them a bit. And then what we're going to do is, for example, we are taking these three, hit Alt D, making a linked copy, and move them to the back. Again, just give it some random rotation, and you will, like 40, and this one, bring it down a little bit, and make it like that. 70, it really doesn't matter. It should just, you know, give you some variety. So we have that. Bring this up again, bring this in a bit, like so. And we're doing the same thing here, like so, rotating it like 45 degrees, bring it up. So we've got, you know, going to scale this up as well, like so. Bring this down in here, make this larger, and bring it more to the back, like so. We can then, again, you know, you can either copy or just drag it in again, like so. Did that in render view, so it takes some time, but actually it looks pretty well. Let's make it like this, bring it in so it's actually part of our scenery, like so. Right. The problem is I'm fine with that and this one, but these things don't match the scale. It would not look like they're far away, they're just too small. So what we're going to do is bring them more in here, maybe rotate them like so, bring them in here. This one looks good, that one we need to, I mean, and that's the whole process, right? You're just building, like if you're familiar with Lego, you're just creating the, bring that one in here, like so, bring it down, rotate it a bit, like so. Okay, so we have that, and you put as many variations, not variations, but you can include different rotations and things like that. Again, Alt D, bring it in, like here, bring it there, bring it up, rotate it, so you're getting a different view, like so. Something like this. Okay, now that's one kit bash scene, but we can make it more interesting. So first of all, we could of course just texture our landscape, and before we do that, let's bring our materials a bit, the city into a new collection, call it city. And why are we doing that? Because it's then easier to then bring this in as well to city, that it's gone, and we leave that in because it gives us some proper scaling for our terrain. So add material, we scaled this up by 200, so like 4 in the material displacement. Let's stick with 1K and go with the texture mapping of something like 20. Yes, good work. And give it some displacement for 0.2. So we've got that. Let's copy those values. We don't need to click anything in here. So we are going to do some cliffs as well, and click to use. Unfortunately, it's taking the same material. Just click anything so we see the difference, and then we're going to paste our values in here. So that is actually not looking bad at all. We can probably give the cliff a little bit more displacement, like 0.4, and increase the texture mapping to something like 50, I would say. Yep, let's see how it looks with the city enabled as well. Yeah, that's not too bad. It's still, we can do better. So what we can do now is maybe we could add some water. So that's what we're going to do, and we're going to take lake and rivers, add water, scale it up by 500 so we've got it properly in the scene, apply the scale and use the solidifier, go like to 15 meters, open this up, rotate that so it's on the horizon. Okay. Get rid of the city for that. It's just about placing the water. Should be here in a second. That's what I was thinking. Oh, there we are. Okay. So water, come up please. Like so. Yep. Maybe make it a little bit larger so we've got a proper water line on the horizon, and then just do some minimal tweaking in our water shader. So let's do dirty water because it is a big city in the background, and then we're going to change the water tint to more like greenish, darker greenish tint, something like that, and displacement value to, you know, I'm just missing a word, you know, so the scale is properly addressed. Let's make this 2. So we've got this, the surface dirt, we could do a little bit less. So, like so. The volume options, light options, dispersion, we can give it a little bit. Deposit offset. Yeah, we want it definitely to be more like 0.7. That's fine. Let's do a little bit of foam. Disable the paint map and increase. You can see it's coming up in here. Not too much. That's already too much, like so. Increase the visibility and do high calculations. So we've got this nice foam on the edge, and okay, that's that. Now let's bring in our city. And putting some, maybe do some HDRI lighting with clouds, and you would be set, just as an example, right? However, so that's one thing. The other thing is I want to show you how you can more or less fiddle with some of the material settings of these assets. So what we're going to do is we're going to make this an atmospheric evening scene. So to do that, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to set the altitude to 0. Maybe it's already 0 at your end. I have that in my standard. So we don't need, well, we do, because I want this asset on my small island as well. Alt R and bring this up. I think it makes the foreground a little bit more interesting, maybe, like so. Bring this a little bit to the back. Yeah, I like that. Okay, now we don't have any grass, any rocks in here. We could play with that, but as I said, evening volumetrics, so some of those details won't be seen at the end anyhow. So the first thing we're going to do is we're decreasing the sun elevation and make it like 3.5, and then let's play with the sun rotation, like maybe like this. But before, okay, so fine, looks nice. Now what we're going to do is we're adding a cube. We're making this cube as 500 as well. Let's take a look. Let's rotate this to match. Well, actually it does match our scene pretty well. Just bring down the Z scale and apply the scale. We can even bring this up so it really fits. Bring this down again, apply the scale. And then let's head over to our shader editor and put a new material on this box, but instead of a principled BSDF, we're going to use a volume scatter. And that's what it is. And if we're taking a look into our scene right now, you will see, you should see, absolutely nothing, or blackness. And let's see if I'm right. This is, yeah, you can hear my lighter in the meantime. Yeah, it's pretty black because the shader is connected to the surface, and I don't want that. I want the shader be connected to the volume. And then I want the density to be like 0.05. Take a look at that right now. And there's not much of a difference because it's still too much density. But 0.005 already gives us this fog, which we could use. Now let's head back over to our world and sun rotation and see what kind of light we can get in here. So I think it's still too much density. Let's go with 0.01 and make the color like maybe just a bluish tint, like so. And we probably should bring down the sun elevation. As I said, I want this to be very dark and evening. Yeah, so something like that. Let's find something we like. Maybe like this. And even increase the density a little bit. Like so. Okay. Now it looks nice, but it looks kind of dead because the city and this kiosk would not look that empty. So or I don't know, I'll show you what I mean. So what we're going to do is we're going to click one of these assets and go to the material library. You can see, although we have, as in the asset library, we have combined the individual parts of each asset, the materials are still in here. So let's take a look what they are called. And here, for example, I have light blue, light red, light white. So what we're going to do, and as you can see, they're all printable BDSFs. So what we're going to do is we're going to override that by changing that to an emission shader. There we are. And that is the light blue. So let's pick light blue and put this to something like 100. Okay, we don't see a lot of changes. Let's do the same thing here with the red. Let's bring emission red, and we see that our sign is being transformed into an emission shader. And then we've got the light white, and we're doing the same thing in here. Emission light white, and we're, oh look, our lamppost. Let's make this a little bit yellowish, like so. And we've got this nice reflection now on the water, and we also have light inside of our kiosk in here. So let's do the same thing in here. On these skyscrapers, we've got glass, glass, glass. Do we have some light? No, we don't. So what we're going to do is we are going to take the tinted glass, and instead of the principal shader, we're going to exchange it as an emission shader and increase. Okay, that, yep, I'm fine with that. Maybe change the colors a little bit. to more darkish blue, something like that, or a gray. What have we here? We've got glass black. Let's change the principle to emission and make this dark blue, strength. That doesn't look good. But I think it's mainly the color choice. Right. Interesting. Okay. And I think this is not too bad, and I think we can just play with the sun rotation. Make it even darker, like so. So the light of the cabin or the kiosk here is more focus. We can play with those settings, but now, you know, I'm starting to fiddle, and that's something you could do on your own, like so. Let's increase the dust, and in this one let's increase this. And we've got some nice interior lighting in here. So let's give this a render and see what we get. Hopefully this doesn't take too long, but remember we've got quite a lot of high quality materials in here, and the volumetrics always take more time, but with a bit of luck it should be starting to render very soon. If it takes longer than a couple of seconds, I'm going to cut it here, but you can see the samples are already starting, so I'll see you in a bit. So here is our result, and of course there's a couple of things wrong with it, but I mean, adaptive sampling, or the amount of samples could be higher, so we don't get these artifacts. Play with the water. The emission isn't brilliant, but in the end it is an example on how you could use assets from your asset library to create an atmospheric scene. Now for me, I would just add maybe a couple of trees in here, or just one over here, so we get some sort of vegetation on this very bleak scene. Maybe scatter some rocks on in here as well, and I might do that and present you with the end result in a minute. This concludes part one, where I'm just trying to show you how you can use individual assets to place it into your scene, and how to create a scene you might like, or just use as a background for your main scene. Hope you enjoyed it, and in part two we will take the asset library and work with scatter systems and see how we can utilize them. Maybe see you there. Thanks. See ya. Bye.